Well, at least one DAP lead was on time. Nick was here on time, but our solicitor couldn't be here on time. But nonetheless, he's here. And Mrs. Sweeney is here from the Health Department to discuss their findings from the water samples in Yellow Creek.
All right, so I want to thank Mrs. Sweeney and Ryan T-Cat, who took a lot of time educating me on this whole thing. There are a lot of different criteria that we are looking at and have to look at to determine whether or not the water running through Yellow Creek is a public nuisance versus just not being, I'll say, advisable to go and wade in it. The study that was done by the District Health Board was from April 27th through July 27th. 170 samples were taken. And I have a map here that shows where they took them along the Yellow Creek flow, if you will, all the way back into the woods, where to the right of it is an area that's more woodland area, not populated. To the left are the homes, residential homes, and as you can see, the inlets that come from the area in the woods are a little bit smaller here, and they feed into the main creek and then down through the village. So the way that they structured it was to get different points of input to determine where the water may be coming from that may be a problem. Now, what I learned about that's very important is there is regular water flow, what's the term?
Base flow.
Base flow, I should know that. And then when you have a rain event that causes the water to move. Base flow is what we're concerned about. Base flow is what the averages are based upon. Base flow is how the water is on a normal day. The rain events act like a flushing of the system. So all the stuff that's kind of laying there during normal base flow that isn't moving because the water isn't strong enough. When it rains hard, it's strong enough to flush the water and everything gets moved. Now while it gets moved, it gets scrubbed as well over the rocks and over the different things we have. So when you have a rain event, you can't really take the numbers that you get as indicative of a water quality. You have to go on non-rain event days to figure out what the base flow and what the water is really like. That's important because the criteria that is used in the code to determine whether or not water is a public nuisance based upon base flow is not based upon rain events. So the numbers that we're talking about today, you're going to hear different numbers, and it's important to remember the rain events versus the non-rain events. Let's see here. I have a chart here, and like I said, there are 5 different locations, and for the sake of just kind of illustrating the point tonight for the council and for anyone that's back there, the red would be a rain event. So once there's a rain event, what happened to the bacteria, to the E. coli matter in the water? You can see after a rain event it spikes, right? Because everything's moving. Well, the important thing is, after that rain event, what happened to the water? So if you start back, sample location number 1, which is at the bottom of the flow, you'll see, if I get it here, of course it's the last one, that you have a rain event, and then it goes back down. You have a rain event, it goes back down. Rain event, it goes back down. So every time there's a rain event, and you can see here a spike on a non-rain event, but every time you had a rain event, the water returned to the low levels that it was. Again, for illustrative point, this is point 1. So this is the bottom of the string, okay? Keep that in mind as I talk about points 2, 3, 4, and 5. 1, it returns to normal. 2, it pretty much returns to normal. 3, it returns to normal. But when you get to 4 and 5, it doesn't quite go back to where it was. 4 and 5, as you can see here, have a much higher level even after a rain event. It stays high. So that means, I think, that there's something else flowing into that water other than what's there that's causing the E. coli to be higher. So, in looking at it with Director Sweeney and with Ryan, if you look at where the rain and where the flow comes from, you can see 4 and 5 are at the very top. But you can see to the right of 4 and 5, we think maybe some sewer systems or some septic, I'm sorry.
Potentially, but we definitely want to know what's going on in those two tributaries that feed into the Yellow Creek there, because that is the highest area where it does not come back to an area that you would want to call safe.
Now, when we talk about what is safe, the standard that the administrative code has is very high, and I don't have the numbers. Is it 576, Ms. Sweeney? 576. I'm just going to throw these numbers out there so you get a basis. For water that is recreational, recreational water is 120, or was it lower, 104?
Let me get the tape.
Well, I'm trying to remember these numbers, all right?
It's primary contact or recreational.
And it's low. It's 104 to 120, somewhere in that area. That's the water that is anticipated you swim in. That's the water is anticipated that you go into. For it to be safe, the E. coli level's got to be below 120 or 104. We're going to find that out in 1 second.
126.
126, okay. Now, for water to be a public nuisance, the E. coli's got to be higher than 576. So there's a big difference between water that is you can go in and wade in and swim in to water that becomes a public nuisance, that becomes unsafe. The measure of figuring out where a public water is unsafe, and by default, all waters in the state are
Primary contact,
primary
unless
contact.
they're designated as secondary.
And we have no waters that have been designated as secondary contacts. So all the waters we're talking about tonight are primary contact waters. 126 is the number that they have to be at for people to go in them and for us to say it's okay to do that. Not to drink, not to do anything, but just for them to have contact with, okay? For a public nuisance, which we call action numbers, right? We kind of came up with that. That's the number that you can get to when you can have money given to you to do things, to check on sewers, to do, maybe diversionary means of tributaries, different things like that. So
With sanitary, to make certain that the sanitary line is brought there if there would be any septic systems that were malfunctioning.
yes,
That's the threshold where it could be declared a public health nuisance.
yes.
And a certain percentage of all of the samples taken over that 90-day period have to be above that threshold, and you were not there.
The good news and the bad news is we're not at the threshold.
But it is good news too.
Yeah, we are higher than the 126. So we're higher than water that we would tell people it's okay to go into, but we're lower than water that's deemed to be a public nuisance. For what the village, what that means is we've done everything that we could have done, I think, up until this point. We put signs up that say don't go in the water. We have advised the public not to do that and spread the word about that. We didn't cause panic or alarm by saying that it was, unsafe to the point that it was, could hurt someone, but we were cautionary. What I would suggest are a couple things. One, I believe that, I forget, Mill Creek Park has the water flow or the rain flow signs as well. That after rain, it is highly advisable that you not wade into this water or have contact with the water, because at those points, it does get above the 576 at different locations. But then it goes back down. And remember, you don't measure after rain, then you measure on a normal day.
I would want to add that about 86% of your samples came back, no, 56%. It was 86 samples out of 170
Yes.
that came back above that threshold after rain events. So the total of all of your samples, 86 of them did come back above the safe level. So it isn't just a sign that would say only after rain events, because it was significant after rain events, but it's not just like at Mill Creek Park, if it pours, then they go up. If you get small rain events, it didn't spike. Your small rain events over time, it could be 2 or 3 days in a row that it's raining, your E. coli levels still go up. They come back down within 48 to 72 hours in most places, except for in that sample area 4 and sample area 5. So you do need to still be concerned that it does go up and it stays up. And one other thing, it's not just from the water flushing through, it's that the rain is flushing over everybody's yards and farms and animal feces and barns, and that all comes into the water that comes into the creek. So that's why after rain events you're going to see higher levels. It's not just the turbulence in the creek, it's that everything is flushing into it.
So, where does that leave us? I think that leaves us, like Director Sweeney said, we have to caution the public maybe a little bit more to be particularly careful after a rain event, number one. We have to continue to educate the public that, like a lot of waters around here, Mill Creek and different waters, these are not waters that you should go in and play in and walk in, and especially if you have an open cut. If you remember when Miss Stacy was here with her grandson, he did have an open cut, and that's how the bacteria got into his system, and that's what caused all the damage that it caused. So there is a danger. I won't let my dogs drink that water when we go down there. So be smart about it. We don't have to be panicked about it because it's not to that level. But we do have to make sure that we do everything we can to let the public know, like we've done, that those waters are not waters that you can use recreationally. Anything you want to add? That was everything that she taught me in the hour that Miss Sweeney spent with me. I was trying to be like a proud student tonight.
You did it
fantastic. Well.
I think you stated it exactly as it is.
Where are points 4 and 5?
They are.
Actually, I have another copy as well, so if you want to share. 4 and 5 are over here. So this is Windermere. This is, what is that? Beechwood. No, Beechwood. Let's see what it says. Yeah, that is Beechwood. It's Beechwood. So if you go back, this is where David used to live, David Sweeney. That's that property. So if you keep going back, it's over here. This is 4 and 5. This was 4. It's quite a ways, but here's the manor, here's the school, the Bear Mitchell Field, you come back along. This is Indian Trail. So this is behind Indian Trail quite a bit.
This is 4 and 5?
Yes, this is 4 and 5. 5 comes back, 4 doesn't come back all the way. See how they spike, they go up, they come back down. Up, doesn't come back down.
This would be Indian Trail.
Yeah, I think
Same thing here.
So it's basically then the rain event.
It is, but there's something else underlying because the rest of them, here's one, they come down, they come back, they come all the way down. So they don't stay up. 2, pretty much come down. 3, towards the end of the area, the time you're testing it, it's a little warmer, it's a little drier. But 4 and 5 stay up. They don't use air, it's down a little bit. 4 is where like the area you want to do more testing. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to take tests in both of these areas and see if they're elevated. If they're elevated, then we're going to go back to this area and find out are there any malfunctioning septic systems and talk to the sanitary. That is Windermere.
Yeah, really good job.
But there are some properties, older properties in here that we're not sure on those.
So what should we do? Should we do a press release? Should we put signs up? What would you recommend?
I definitely think the signs are a good idea. Public education is always wise. You're not in a unique situation. If other communities were forward-thinking enough to test, they would find the same things. We've met with the Ohio EPA extensively when we were going through the Mill Creek Park water testing, and they went through, they actually said, why are you making such a big deal out of Mill Creek Park? If you went anywhere in the state, it would be the same thing. But when it's your own community and your own local risk, you want to know what's happening. And I really applaud you for finding out exactly what was going on. This way, if you put signage up, people are aware. You've done what you needed to do to tell people there are times during the season, during the year when you have rain, that all this runoff is going to come into that creek and you're going to have high levels of E. coli. Please don't go in the water. The water you shouldn't be traipsing around the water anyway. I mean, I know it's attractive. It's something people want to do. I've been down there when I had a dog, and the dog was in there years ago too. But it is to a point now in the waters of the state that you would not want to do that.
So that area 4 and 5, that's right around where the Monthy Bridge is at, I believe.
I really don't know because I didn't do the sampling. I can tell you exactly where they are from latitude and longitude from the
right.
From our
It's down from where Parkway, where the Indian Trail entrance is, and then it would go, I believe, north from there, and that's right where the Monthy Bridge is at. And there's a lot of people that go down and buy the water in that area.
There is signage located there.
There is signage there. I know there's one at the Indian Trail entrance, and there's one by the bridge.
Thank you so much
Certainly.
for
I mean,
such
you
a total approach. and
Thanks
we
to Ryan,
appreciate
too,
all
for
your
Ryan.
collaboration.
Ryan is the one to be applauded, not me. He's out of town for work, so I'm kind of his pinch hitter tonight. So I'm not the sanitarian Ryan is, but, and he's the one who educated really both Anthony and I. So,
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.